frantically waving me over. He's like, come here, come here. So I go see what's up, and he says, like, dude, what are you doing? That's Dmitry. Don't antagonize him. He's Russian Mafia, and he owns this entire beach. Yep, I accidentally mouthed off the Russian Mafia. So, I'm on a little bit of a time constraint, so I'm just going to read off my notes on the computer and just do this in one shot, no jump skips. So, October 2018, Cambodia. Sihanoukville, a once beautiful city now overrun by Chinese development and pollution. I bartended at the nearby Otres Beach and Village, where I served expats who had unsavory stories as to why they couldn't return to their home countries. Every night, I would return to my shack in the jungle to sleep with my yellow Asian cockroach friends. It's true. Sleeping in the jungle, I'd wake up every morning, cockroaches all over my shack, on me. It wasn't a good time. Not before I would get very intoxicated each night. One of these nights in particular, I found a beach bar filled with rich Chinese businessmen accommodated by Russian escorts. Sharing drinks with the Chinese, I picked their ears about business investment and bantered about culture differences. Two Russian women had sat down beside us, and I began to speak Russian to them. The basics, like "Привет, меня зовут Jordan, Nozdovia," just the basic bullshit. They told me to go away, and I was like, "Excuse me, that's rude. You sat by us, you go away, leave, go." I had known Russians don't respect pushovers, they actually respect assertiveness, so it's kind of why I was acting in that way. The Chinese men were actually laughing at me. So after I left the interaction, I went back and sat by the bar. I knew the bartender well because I served him when he would come over to my part of the beach. And I said to him, "Man, those Russian girls over there have a bad attitude." And my bartender friend just starts laughing at me too. He says, "Rich Chinese men, Russian prostitutes." And I was just like, oh, of course. I can't believe I didn't catch that. So after a little bit, I was still mingling with people at the bar. I met this girl from the UK. We'll call her Anna. We were hitting it off a bit, but the more she talked, the more it became abundantly clear she was on a cocktail of just tons of different drugs. Video here.
And then she starts drawing my eyebrows on. So I was like, yeah, go for it. Right, okay. And she draws them on, and I didn't really like them. And I was like, yeah, right, okay, that's enough now. I've had enough. I've been in here 20 minutes already. Yeah. So I was like, fuck this, right? Like, yeah, they're good, yeah, where'd you get the money out? No, you lie down. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Right.
One of those.
So.
Then her boyfriend came, who turned out to actually be a pretty cool guy, but I could tell he was on way more drugs than her. He was like having a tough time standing up straight. A few hours had passed and most of the bar had cleared out. Anna's boyfriend was passed out face down in the sand. I kept checking to make sure he was okay. In the middle of having a conversation with Anna, a tall, older man, I'd say around 50, 55, sat directly between us. Turned his back to me and he became very engaged with Anna. He had a clear Russian accent. I was a little taken aback by this, but I tried to introduce myself. He completely ignored me and my hand that I gestured in front of him. And where was I? Yeah. So I changed my tone a little bit. I said to him, "Excuse me, we were having a conversation. Thanks for stopping by." He completely ignored me again, so I spoke even louder and said, "I know you heard me, and I know exactly what you're doing. You intruded over here, so if you don't at least acknowledge me, we're gonna have a problem." Anna was like pretty drugged out of her tree as well still at this point, and she was just kind of fine with everything. So I spoke to Anna. I'm like, "This guy is obviously trying to hit on you while your boyfriend is literally passed out right there in the sand. That is not okay." So this Russian man, like, he's still proceeding to ignore me, picked up her hand and actually kissed it, and like by this point I was like super angry. My blood was boiling. So I said, very seriously, I'm going to the washroom. You had better be gone by the time I get back. So I went and relieved myself, and as I'm storming back out to the beach, my bartender friend like starts frantically waving me over. He's like, come here, come here. So I go see what's up, and he says, like, dude, what are you doing? That's Dimitri. Don't antagonize him. He's Russian Mafia, and he owns this entire beach. And I was just like, oh. I was like pretty taken aback. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, are you sure? And he absolutely assured me this was true. So I video called my friend in Moscow, and just she knows a lot more about the Russian customs there. So I explained the situation to her, and I was just like, should I go and apologize to him? I was wondering because I know in many situations Russians would consider that weak. She told me, no, don't apologize. He probably respects that you stood up to him. So in the following days, I asked some of the locals, and they were easily able to confirm Dimitri's status. And yeah, that's the thing about traveling, guys. You really do never know who you're going to encounter. But yeah, that was the time I accidentally mouthed off the Russian Mafia.